So here's this thing right here. This console is something that I made out of wood and some kind of naga hide from a fabric store. And this is where it is in the car. And I guess the next thing you'll see, unless we edit something, will be a close-up of what's in here. Well, here, I'll show you. What's in here? I made this security cover, and here's the control panel and display for the Etak, which is not currently live. Notice it's got 7 buttons on the left and the right side. Here's the little fuzzy, but there's a little Etak logo. And here's some junkyard parts that I actually put in the original place. I cut apart a console that I bought from a similar car. And down here is still junky because I haven't decided what to do with it. But okay, so here's the inside of the Etak next. Hi, this is us. And here's my knee, and this Joni's knee. Here's the shifter in the car, and here's the cigarette lighter. Sorry, this camera mount can't do much else but look at where it's looking right now. And here's my cover. So we take the cover off, and you still can't see much, I guess. But when I turn the ignition on, or in this case, I think we'll go ahead and start the car. I do have a switch wired so that I can turn it on with the without the ignition. So here's doing its little.
Are you trying high gain?
Yes. Here it's as it says, it's loading the Etak map. And for your safety, do not use before reading operating instructions. Oh, Joni's going to show you what an Etak map is like. Looks like. It's here's a case for one. I'm not sure if we can focus this close, but we can focus down there, I guess. This one says map of the San Fernando Valley. We have 4 different ones, and of course, and it's a Philips-cassette, as you can see. Oh, which is what we probably want. Well, no, we've got another one loaded in right now. Okay, so now the little thing says map display on. Push the button, and there's a quarter mile range. You can see if I zoom in that we're sitting on Riverside Drive, and here's Laurel Canyon up here, and down here is over here. Let me just turn the ignition off. This is a parallel street that's 2 blocks over called Houston Street. Here's the 101 freeway is what that little symbol's for. If we let me zoom out. If we push this little button, says, and it's got an L on it. It puts labels up for all the other streets so they don't try to confuse you with too many streets at once, and also because the computer needs to have time to draw all this stuff. You can see this says Bellingham and Agnes and Addison and Hesby and Kling Street. So we're at the corner of Bellingham and Riverside. I have, in one of the functions I can do, this says select destination, this says stored locations, move the car if we need to reposition where it thinks we are. Another button says reposition. Something to reset the compass, which is in the car, which the system is using. This turns the map off so that it just goes away. You can't see anything but this little button that says map display on. It runs all the time that the car is moving, and all the time the car is moving, it's having to keep track of where the car is. If I go to the menu and go to stored locations, one of the locations I have stored right here at the top, number 1, is called home. I push home. You can see a flashing star right here. That's actually from when I put the car in the garage and told it to remember exactly where the car was. You see where the car is this little pointer here, this little arrow here. So the little pointer always points the direction the car is facing, and the world revolves around it. And let me show you the whole display again. What else is important, crucial to this display? Starting in the upper left, there's a button that says menu. which sends you to other parts of other functions. This button here says north up, which right now north is actually this way. There's a little arrow up here. It's got an N in it, which is where true north is. This little arrow here shows how to get to my destination, which is home. Right now, the destination it thinks is home is really not far. Right now, the scale is 1/8 of a mile. You see here it says 1/8, and so from where the car is to somewhere near the top of the screen is 1/8 of a mile. If I zoom us, well, let's see. If I zoom us back to a half mile, now here's the car, here's the flashing star, and up here at the top of the map is almost a half mile away, and it doesn't display all the less significant streets in between, just major streets. Laurel Canyon here, Riverside Drive that we live on here, Magnolia, the next big street over here, and the 101 freeway here. Other simple exercise here, which is we're going to ultimately go to the post office, which is just really not far away at all. In fact, I know that it happens to be right here in the lower left corner of the map, but we're going to pretend we don't know where it is. Over here, these buttons now labeled say 1/4, 1/2, 1, 2, 5, 10. These are miles in range, miles of view. Here's a 1 mile view, so we can see from where our car is to here is a mile. Here's the 2 mile view, and so on out to, here's 10 miles, where all it shows is the major freeways. Here's Interstate 10, here's the 210, one of the loops off it. Here's the 405 or the San Diego freeway here. If I show you some alternate labels. Here's the Interstate 5, major freeway going, major interstate going north and south through California. And I can keep zooming out. Here's 20 miles, here's 40 miles, and at 40 miles, this represents basically all of Los Angeles. Where we live down here, and then Orange County starts out this way. Here's a north up view. So if you looked at a traditional map, this is what Los Angeles would look like relative to where we are. And this is what this map that I have currently covered, or this set of maps actually, shows you. Yeah. Okay, so we go back to the normal view, which is with the car facing up. We'll zoom into a 1/4 mile. And now let's pick a location. Well, actually, I'll show you something else. You can store 16 locations in here. Here's one that says Mike. You probably can't read it from there. But this third one says Mike, and you can see that here there's an arrow that's slightly pointing kind of this way that says, and next to it there's a number 3.4. Let me adjust this a little bit. 3.4. It's 3.4 miles as the crow flies to Mike's house. That doesn't mean it's going to be 3.4 miles to drive there. In fact, it'll be something like at least 1.5 times that in real miles. And 3.4 miles is not particularly close here. It's not real far, but it takes a little while to get there. It'd take us maybe 10 minutes to get there. So if I push number 3, it will show us where Mike's house is relative to us on the scale of map that it'll fit on. So it's, since he's 3.5 miles away, it shows us a map that's a 5-mile range. Here's where we are, here's where Mike is. And in some ways, all we have to do is just keep driving and watch this little arrow, which keeps pointing at Mike's house. And doesn't really matter what roads we take, and it doesn't help you with deciding which roads to take. But you always know where you are relative to where you're trying to get to go. You know if you've passed it. And it can be more important than that, and it can be more useful than that. We're going to put in a location. We're going to enter our own location. Up here, this says Select Destination next to this button. So I'm going to press, oh, you can't see my finger. I'm going to press the Select Destination button, the button next to this. And now we get this menu. See, we'll make sure you can see as well as possible. And because I don't know the address of the post office, I do know that it's almost at the corner, or actually it's at the corner of Wilkinson and Magnolia. So I'm going to spell the name of, I pushed the button that said intersection, I'm sorry. And now I'm going to spell the name of one of the streets, Magnolia. I don't have to spell the whole name. I can start with M-A-G. And now it says please wait, and it's going to search and it's going to scan through its little tape, and you can see now that it's found Magdalena. And there are little buttons up in the corners, up here and over here, that say scroll. And I'm going to push those buttons, and you'll see us scroll down Magnolia. There is Magnolia. And now that I've got it, I can either cancel it, I can respell it, or I'm going to push the button over here that goes with this OK. And that's the first street. Now I'm going to look for the second street, which was Wilkinson. W-I-L-K. And then Wilkie. So we'll see if there's a Wilkie. There certainly is a Wilkie, but the next one down is Wilkinson. So it's finding the location of Magnolia and Wilkinson now.
We've never actually put this in there.
Right, and it says now you may begin driving. There are lots of things that the Etak will not let you adjust while you're driving because they don't want you taking your attention from the road. Now, this is not a very ambitious project, but you can see it's now showing us where our destination is, and it's a half mile away. It's 0.5 miles away, as it says at the top of the screen, and we can actually see it flashing down here. And it on this range, it's showing us the two major streets to get there are Laurel Canyon and Magnolia, or Riverside and Whitsett at the very bottom of the screen. I don't know if you can see, but my hand's in the way. So now I will start the car. Excuse me, and it's going to restart the Etak. And I'm going to, just so you can get to see all the detail go by, I'm going to zoom us in here to a quarter-mile view, and you'll get to see what happens as the car moves. And we start to pull out onto Riverside, which is very busy because it's 4:44 in the afternoon on Monday. And we managed to fog the car up. Okay. And now
Don't turn on the defogger.
Now we're pulling out. And instead of making a U-turn, I'm going to go ahead and go on up to Laurel Canyon. Now, when we look at the little arrow on the Etak, we see that we're now further away. We're now 0.6 miles away, and it's actually, we're past it. It's pointing toward the rear of the car. It's this little arrow here that's pulsing. If I want to see where it is, I zoom out to half a mile, and no, I can't see it on a half mile anymore because it's too far away. Go to the 1 mile view, and now you can see at the bottom of the screen, here's the flashing star, and here's where we are. So we know we've passed where we want to go. The system also lets you put in the name of a street, and it'll just send you to some part of that street. I mean, not a particular place, but the nearest edge of the street. You can put in a street address. If you look in the phone book, and we do this all the time, you want to go to a place you've never been, you open the phone book, you find its street address, and you just put the street address in. And it tells you where to go. It tells you how far it is. You can put it in memory. And instead of showing you exactly on the street where it is, it only shows you, we're starting to move now, we've been waiting at a light, it only shows you the ends of the street, little flashing stars at each corner of the end of the street. Does it show you where to go? Now, just to make it interesting, I'm going to turn a little early here. We're going to go down into this neighborhood. And now you'll see that on the map, our little car is going into the middle of a block that has and it doesn't appear to be on a street. If I zoom down to the quarter-mile range, we can see that we actually are on a street. And in fact, it just made an adjustment. The Etak works by keeping track of, I'm going to take a right turn here. See the Etak spin with us. In fact, I'll just keep making strange turns. Turn left here. Oh, well, I know what we'll do. We'll do something dumb. I'm sure Joni's real impressed at that. I know we're trying to go to the post office, but if you look on the Etak map right now, you'll see for one thing that the street that we're on is about to dead end. into a perpendicular at another street, and indeed, and since I can't tilt up the camera to show you, we can't continue on. So we're going to turn right, and you see over here there are these little stubby things, they're little dead-end streets here. Little dead-end pieces of apparently the street called Wilkinson, and I just want to go down and see if they're actually there.
Something we haven't checked out before.
You can see the post
We've
office.
walked in this neighborhood.
There's the intersection we want to get to that's actually flashing. But right up here, it shows that that street only is a little short street that doesn't go anywhere. And right here is something called, there's a sign that says Rhodes Avenue, and it is a cul-de-sac. If the camera were easier to take off the mount, I could swing around and show you, but the street is only part of a block long and it stops, and if I look for this,
it's actually an access street for about 3 houses.
And you see over here it says Rhodes right here. So these little stubby pieces are pieces of roads too. So anyway, to get to the post office, it's over here on the right edge of the screen. When we start moving, you see that it changes the display of the street names. Oops. Oh, that's interesting. You see the we just came upon Wilkinson to our right, but Wilkinson doesn't go through as it's displayed here. This is Wilkinson, and there is actually a chunk of Wilkinson here, but there's no but it doesn't go through. So we have to go around, and we'll go down to Whitsett.
We need some cutaways bad.
I'm sorry.
Badly.
Actually, a second camera would have been the thing to do here. And we also see that, this actually comes in a lot handier than you might think. I see that instead of going up to this main street corner of Magnolia, that I can apparently cut in and take a shortcut or whatever this next street we're coming up to is. So I'm going to turn right and do that. And then make a left on Wilkinson. So I'm going to change the filter because it's actually getting dark out here. So things may have gotten kind of blue, or maybe they didn't. Now, interesting, at this point, the car's not actually on Wilkinson. It's slightly to the left of it, and in a moment it will probably jump to the right. It just did, and corrected itself.
But as you can see, we are at our destination, and in fact the post office is to car left.
And we are at the corner of Wilkinson and Magnolia. I know there's not much to confirm that you're actually seeing it, but this is not in our living room. This really is a car. I wish we could tilt the camera around easier to show you the rest of this. But
the people we're going to show this to will take our word for it,
I guess. So anyway, again, here's a big view of where we are. You can see that the next major street coming up is Laurel Canyon right here. And then the next major street after that is Colfax. There's this freeway here, the 170, and here's the 101. There's actually enough detail on the map that you can see which, even on this view, if I zoomed you in probably, you can see right here that there are on and off ramps. Those little squiggles aren't mistakes. Those are really on and off ramps from the 170. So you can tell which major streets have on and off ramps to the freeways with the maps that are in the E-tag. So zoom us down to a quarter mile. The most detailed or the closest view you can get is an eighth of a mile. We're right now in stopped traffic or creeping traffic at a light. So this is an eighth mile view. So this is as much detail, and actually the quarter mile view shows you all the detail there is. And now I'm about to turn right on Laurel Canyon. There is yet another kind of display, which is this display. Shows you what the current destination is, which is still the intersection of Magnolia and Wilkinson, as you should be able to read, or I hope, well, you could read. And it shows our cardinal direction. Here's where we're facing due east now, with this little compass, which will actually spin as we go here.
Pedestrian right.
Thank you. And at the bottom, you can, well, if you could see well enough, you'd see that it's displaying that our current latitude is north 34.16496 degrees, and our longitude is west 118.39558 degrees, give or take a 10,000th of a degree. And the latitude is changing right now because we're going south, and the longitude is staying fairly stable. And as you can see now, it shows that we're heading due south. And as I jump back to the quarter-mile view, you'll see that Riverside is approaching here. Again, when you're moving, you can't change destinations. So if I wanted to show you where the home destination was, I'd have to wait till the car stopped or pull over to the side of the road, which is somewhat inconvenient, but I understand Etak's concerns over not having drivers operate it too much while they're in motion. And perhaps while I'm waiting here, no, I'm not going to wait here long. I'm going to go in this little block behind our house. Stop for a moment, and I'll go ahead and go to the menu, go to the stored locations, and show you home, and show you that home is right here. That's our garage, and right here, I don't know if you can still see my finger, right here is where we were parked when we started this trip. And this is a little block with dead-end roads that's behind our apartment, which I end up doing this to come around to park on the street, going around this block a lot, and also because it gives the Etak one last chance to make any corrections for itself before I shut it down for the night when I come in. It's turned out to be a real practical device. I got it mostly out of just kind of a hobby interest, but we've made incredible use of it recently, going shopping in places we've never been before. I'm changing views as we go, and
visiting people. We delivered some Christmas baking this past couple days, and lots of people I'd never been to before, people who live 30 miles away, and we just put their address in and followed the little arrow until we got to their house. And although again it doesn't always tell you it doesn't ever tell you the way to go or the best route, you never have to worry that you won't get there. You will always get there. You will always know where your car is. You will always know how to get back home. And it's quite remarkable in that respect. And is there anything else that I haven't demonstrated about, not functions, but displays that you can think of? You can actually look at adjacent areas with this particular function. I can scroll the map over to the left. See, here's our car now, and I can keep going left, but it only lets you go a few screens. And this little arrow in the middle shows us which way is home. Here's Burbank Boulevard, so we know that if we kept going that way, we'd hit Burbank Boulevard. Unfortunately, you can't do this while you're moving either, but it is a way of kind of anticipating in some way where you might go from where you are. Okay, that's as far over as we can go. That's actually a fair distance. Laurel Canyon and Emelita is maybe a mile away or something, which is in the middle of the screen. Turn the ignition off so you can hear me better. What else? To demonstrate that there were many stored locations.
I didn't show you the rest of the stored locations. Here's and as you can see again, in the stored locations, for each location, here's home, 0.0 miles away, because we're there. Here's the Welch's residence, Doug and Roseanne, 10939 Morrison, where we went and dropped off bacon. And we'd never been there before, but it took us there. They're fairly close. They're only 1.7 miles away. Here's Mike's, it's 3.4, and you can see that this arrow shows that Doug and Roseanne's is just slightly left of where the car is facing now. You see the little arrow next to the number. All these arrows pointing in different directions. The two bottom things are
Mike Andreas's and the Church of Christ building here in Burbank, and they're not that close together. It says 3.4, but you can see that the arrows are just slightly different angles, so by the time you get there, they're actually, I don't know, a mile apart or something like that. We can scroll down. This is the next 4 that I have in memory. And there's a couple beef bowl restaurants. Here's a Kyushu ramen place. The bottom is 7.7 miles that away to get to Los Angeles Community College, where Johnny works. Oops, no, this flashlight's died somehow. Yep. If I scroll down, this is not. I'm going to delete a location. The top location says 1030 Chelis or Celis or Celis Street, SFO, which is San Fernando, 8.8 miles that way. We thought there was a Sears surplus store there. There was in the phone book, but it's turned into some other kind of store, a furniture store. So I'm going to delete that selection. And now there's a Pace store, which is 9.4 miles away. It's a pretty good haul, actually. It's starting to get to be pretty distant. Curtis Bradford, a gaffer I work with, we delivered some cooking to yesterday, baking. There's 11 miles that way. Here's Russ Carpenter, 24 miles. Here's the Long Beach Convention Center. I can get rid of that. That's 29 miles away. We were just there over the weekend. Here's Barbara and Jerry, 31 miles away, which is a long way. It's a nasty drive to get to there from here. There are freeways, but they're always full of cars. And here's a guy named Don Tomich, who's 33 miles away from this point. Anyway, I guess they really wanted to know all this. Oh, you can also sort all these locations by distance. What are you laughing at now? Anyway, it's dark now. I've turned the, yeah, you can see how dark, I've turned the lights on. There's the interior light of the car. And it's 4:59.
The shortest day of the year was 2 days ago, so sundown comes quickly, and since we're in a valley, it comes especially quickly.
So there's where we are. Take it a little closer. There's the 8th mile view. There's where the car is, and there's where the apartment is. And this is where we were, if you saw that on the tape. This is where the car, exactly the same place where the car was parked when we were shooting on the outside of the car. So that's the Navigator, and anything else? I guess I could, if we had light, I could show the processor in the trunk. It's the size of a bread box. There's also down in front, down this way, under my leg, under the seat, the tape drive.
It's where you've chosen to mount these things. This is
right.
Not a factory idea. This is just where you found it most expeditious for this car.
In fact, this particular model, there were 2 models. One had a much smaller monitor that was mounted in a stalk that would sit up here pretty close to the driver. And I'm pretty glad I don't have that, because this was intended to be mounted in some kind of bigger vehicle so that it would be further away from the driver, and that's why they made the display bigger. But it means that I could mount it in my console where I feel better about security, because I cover it with that faceplate, and it's invisible when I'm not in the car or when the car's parked. It doesn't look like something worth taking, I hope. And what else? Oh, so but this happened to be installed in a limousine, which I guess is why it was a big one. And then in the back, there is literally like a bread loaf sized thinned aluminum case, which contains all the main processor, and all the storage of addresses and things happens in that electronically in that box, and then nothing gets stored in these tapes. These tapes only contain all these maps and names, but quite remarkable. And for example, if I were to select a destination and look for a street name, and I just started with it blank, and I think this will work.
Just on this tape alone, and I have 4 different tapes which cover different areas of Los Angeles County, the first thing that comes up is First Street. And if I just start scrolling, there's just numbered streets, and here come the named streets. And so it has, it has every one of these streets, not necessarily the full length, but for a lot of these streets go 100, 200 blocks. And it may have 200 blocks of many of these streets. And we're not even out of the A's yet. We're just into the AS's right now. Quite remarkable. And here come a bunch of avenues. And here come a bunch of avenidas, which I guess must be avenue in Spanish. And here come the B's. Oh, it looks like there was something called B Street. Yeah, just a B. That's interesting. So it's amazing that this much was stored on cassettes in the first place, and that's why they used cassettes at the time. And it's sort of the weakness of the system. And now it's stored on CD-ROM, much more advanced. Well, I guess that's all of that. It's been fun. If you ever come to LA, we'll take you for a ride and go someplace we've never been before. Bye.